A little bit of muscle going on over Greece, really. Stephen Carroll's here. No deal at that meeting between the Prime Minister and the European Commission chief in Brussels, but they have got somewhere, we think.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they say that a deal is within sight. That's the line that we got from the Prime Minister, Alexis Tsipras. He'd spent 4 hours discussing an economic reform plan with Jean-Claude Juncker on Wednesday night. This after the Greek Prime Minister sent what he called a realistic plan to Brussels of what his government is willing to do for the last 7.2 billion euros of its bailout loans. No agreement, as we say, but Mr. Tsipras did emerge optimistic. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
I think that there are realistic proposals on the table rather than proposals of the Greek government. We are very close in an agreement in the primary surpluses. That means that all the sides agreed to go further without the tough austerity measures of the past, and we believe that it's necessary to don't make the same mistakes, the mistake of the past.
Now, earlier we spoke to our correspondent Natalie Savaragas in Athens about the hopes there that a deal can be done.
Prime Minister Tsipras, yes, had said, as we heard, they found common ground when it comes to the budgetary surplus, down to 1% for this year, 2% next year, and so on. However, he opposes the strong austerity measures that come attached, and that's what we're hearing, that there are demands like cuts in the lowest of pensions, increase in electricity prices in Greece. And he said this cannot be continued in a country where austerity contributed to the wipeout, essentially, of a quarter of the country's GDP, and of course a huge increase in the poverty levels. Now, we're hearing of another meeting planned for Friday, again, between the players and the Greek Prime Minister, Jean-Claude Juncker as well. And we'll have to see if something emerges from there. We also know that on Friday, Greece has a very crucial payment to make to the IMF. We're hearing contradicting reports on whether it will be able to pay this installment. Of course, there are further installments throughout the month of May to the IMF again. There's an option that these payments could be bundled together at the end of June, where that option exists, actually. But of course, no country has done that in decades. I think that the last country to do so was actually Zambia.
And we're just getting news from the Dow Jones news agency of possible developments in that story in Greece. Apparently, the Greek Prime Minister has made or is preparing to make another counter offer to their international lenders. That's according to a government official, and we'll have more on that as we get it.
Markets, how are they taking it all, Stephen?
European markets all opening down at the start of trading today. Some of that could be put down to the jitters over the Greek debt talks. Shares, though, in the nuclear giant here in France, Areva, opened up over 1% this after the news. The French government said it would put whatever money necessary into the company to get it out of its current financial difficulties. Over in Asia, Chinese markets mainly in focus today. Shanghai down pretty significantly in trading. It's actually come back up into the positive territory in the past few minutes. We saw a drop. This is just giving an idea of the volatility of the Shanghai index. It was down over 5% earlier. Now it's back up by 0.2%, as you can see. Lots of concern over liquidity in that market affecting share prices there.
Now, a story from France for you now. This makes a change. Some good news on unemployment.
Yeah, we've got new figures from the National Statistics Office which show that the unemployment rate dropped slightly to 10% for mainland France in the first 3 months of this year. The figures for the previous quarter, though, were up slightly on previous estimates to 10.1%. That's the highest rate seen in mainland France since 1997. Now, these surveys are the international benchmark for measuring unemployment. Of course, we also get monthly figures here in France from the Unemployment Ministry, or from the Labour Ministry, about the number of people who are registered as unemployed. And in April, that yet again hit a record high. We'll move on next with some of the day's other business headlines. IKEA has pledged to spend €1 billion on renewable energy and other measures to tackle climate change. The biggest investment is expected to be in wind power to the tune of around €500 million. The Swedish furniture chain has urged other businesses to take similar steps. The US state... there are more telecom takeovers under discussion in the United States. The Wall Street Journal reporting that Dish Network is in talks about a merger with T-Mobile. If that goes through, it would be the latest in a string of multi-billion-dollar deals in the sector. And the state of Nevada has approved what's being called a Burning Man tax. It places a levy of 9% on live entertainment, including the famous week-long desert festival. Organisers of Burning Man have called it misguided, saying they spend more than $11 million in Nevada.
And finally, it's not often we get an insight into what inspires central bankers, if you like, but some interesting ideas coming from Japan, these.
They're not known as the most exciting people in the world, central bankers. I often think, no, really.
Okay.
Sorry, however, very powerful, of course, though.
Yeah.
But this is to do with the head of the Japanese central bank, Haruhiko Kuroda. He's revealed the inspiration behind the recent massive stimulus program in Japan was Peter Pan. He quoted a line from Peter Pan at the start of a monetary policy conference saying, "The moment you doubt whether you can fly, you cease forever to be able to do it." He says that central banks need to have a positive attitude and conviction when they take policy steps. Japan not flying quite yet, though. The goal, of course, of central banks is to try and increase inflation, and that's still trading at zero in Japan.
Not inspiration from Captain Hook, then.
No.
Japan. Okay. Thank you, Stephen.